On the Wake Up Radio presents The Center with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, excuse me, at On the Wake Up Radio, and of course here at the DC Radical One YouTube page, and eventually later in this year of Urugu, probably at DCRadical1.com. Greetings to Sister Vanessa. Greetings to Sister Najee from the continent. Greetings to Four Seeds. Not exactly sure who that is, although I'm sure I'll figure it out as time goes on. And I'm sure more people will enter the building. This was not normally I have things planned in advance. This was not planned in advance. I actually made the decision to do this stream maybe a couple of hours ago. But I said that when the new year of Urugu came around, I would be doing more content for the YouTube page, and so here we are. You can expect content if you follow this YouTube page. You can expect content daily moving forward. I think I have acquired most of the skills I need to make things to the level that I feel like putting my name on them. For those that know me, I am somewhat of a perfectionist with things that carry my name. It's a reason why lectures I've done previously, I have not. Greetings to my trail on a mission. Lectures I've done previously, I have not put out because I didn't feel like they were of quality for me to charge Black people for that service. So if you came to those lectures, and a lot of the ones before this year were free, depending on the venue, that's why those weren't put out, because I didn't feel like they were of quality. And I had wanted to make sure that before I started doing content daily, that I was able to put things of a certain quality together. And so I said that starting, as I said, New Year of Urugu, we'll be doing more content, and that is the plan going forward. And that's why this live stream is happening today instead of the normal day, Sunday. And the title, of course, was New White Year, Same Black Problems. And I just wanted to talk about, I think there's kind of a feeling in the country, and it's possible around the world, not just for Black people, being completely honest, that with the changing of the calendar, that things are just going to automatically get better. And unfortunately, as much as I would like that to be the reality, especially for Black people, that's not how the world works. And so we have to look to see what can we do as a collective, as well as individually, to improve the condition of ourselves, our people, our community, because things have, to quote Europeans, pretty much gone to hell in the proverbial handbasket here in the West, especially if you're here in America. Of course, Sister Najee is back on the continent, probably enjoying some warm weather and friendly people. But for those of us who are here in the West, it's quite a different scenario. And it's very weird. It's a very weird time because for black people especially, we are a social people. We feed off the energy of being around other black people. If you're a black person that's not steeped in self-hatred, you enjoy being around other black people who is family, friends, sometimes just out and about, socializing. Even if it's a club scene or a dance or whatever you like to do, whatever your thing is. If your brother get together, play video games. I mean, a myriad of things. And this pandemic has limited our ability to socialize and gather as a people. And I feel like, just my feeling, that's affecting the spirit of the people. And I think it's kind of it's having a slow draining effect on black people. And that's something very, greetings to Sister Poetry, and that's something that's we have to watch out for, individually and collectively, because it's something that occurs that you feel but you don't see, and it can cause a lot of depression and eventual mental instability in our community and amongst ourselves. And that's something we have to look out for individually, because as I said, as African people, we're communal, we're collective. Greetings and straight black pride to the war report. And so one of the reasons why straight black pride decided to begin to ramp up their programs is because one of the things we've been able to do is show black people the how positive it can be to interact with other black people. I know Sister Najee said that when she came amongst us, she got a real village feel. She was, I guess, surprised and impressed. I know Sister Vanessa has been to some of our events. She can put in the chat her experience. Sister Vanessa says it is. I believe that eventually everyone will need to start pushing back against all this social distancing nonsense. Yeah, I believe that even Europeans have kind of been pushing back, but I believe they're going to do it a little more forcefully than they have been. And with that, real quick, I just want to mention that, and I'm gonna do a video on it. I'll probably record it either today or tomorrow. January 6th. Speaking of pushback by Europeans, the Stop the Steal people are planning a rally in the nation's capital. So they plan on doing a whole lot of pushback, and they're being urged on by President Trump. So that's just something to look out for, especially if you're in this area, and even if you're not in this area, because depending on what happens there, it may signal an uprising by Europeans against the government. And we know the white nationalists, being completely honest, are not the swiftest people in the world. And when they get violent, they just tend to get violent with whoever happens to be in the vicinity. So I just want to give black people that heads up, that just have your head on a swivel and avoid Urugu as much as possible from that time. So that's just a heads up on that. Also, for us, January 9th, of course, is Dr. Khalid Muhammad Day, the 4th annual Dr. Khalid Muhammad Day. And I will be, giving the lecture presentation, Africa versus Everybody Reloaded, The Hidden Enemies. And I've been working quite diligently on that. I actually have currently reading 2.5 books at once. So I had to really go back and do a lot of study. I say 2.5 because one book is kind of a review. The other books are indeed books that I have not read well, actually one of them I kind of scanned through, but I haven't sat down and read. And so there's a lot of information in this one that you won't see anywhere else, because pretty much anytime anybody speaks on this stuff, they get banned and or suffer mysterious fates. So, we're going to delve into some things that aren't spoken about in polite society and have not been spoken about in polite society for well over 100 years. And so that lecture, of course, is available via live stream, as the other one was. We will have all the technical issues worked out. And so the live stream itself, the event will begin at 2. The live stream is scheduled to begin at 2:30. So you will get some preview content, and then we'll begin from there. And so that's January 9th at 2 p.m. And if you're in the DC area, that's at the Empowerment Center. So they're a limited number of live tickets. The Empowerment Center is located at 6490 Landover Road, Cheverly, Maryland, 20785. And you can I'll leave the link for the tickets in the description of this podcast. And if you follow me on Instagram, and Instagram is running along the bottom, yes sir, brother, Cheverly, Maryland. The Instagram is running along the bottom. You follow me at dc.radical1 on Instagram. You'll see the post of it. And if you are subscribed to the Straight Black Pride email, if you on the email list, then you can you've probably already received the email. And the brother says, will it be available for live stream? Yes, it's also available for live stream. So if you don't want to make it out or can't make it out, it will be available for live stream. The tickets are already on Eventbrite, and if you follow me on Instagram, the link is in the bio for the tickets, so you can go there now. In fact, right before I came on, 3 people bought tickets for the live stream. So hopefully, and live stream wise, there are plenty of tickets available. It's limited number of tickets in person. We're gonna limit it between 12 and 15 people because of current regulations and things like that. Also, if you are coming out to the event live, just have your mask with you so that we are within in accordance with regulations. But other than that, everything should go according as planned. And then also, if you're in the DMV area, we are having a Straight Black Pride having an open interest meeting the next day on January 10th, and I believe that's at 2 p.m. And I will post that on the Instagram page too. That will be I'll post it on my story page. So if you're in the DMV area and you're interested in finding out more about the Straight Black Pride movement, then you can come out in person and ask questions and have dialogue with us about that. So with that being said, I believe that is all of the announcements that I had. And so, getting into this topic of New White Year, same black problems, one of the things I always think about is how we are completely surrounded in Eurocentrism. And what it has done is that I think it has made us believe that we haven't done things before, or that what we're doing is the only way to do things. And the holidays, of course, is a perfect example of this. You have, of course, we've had Europeans have celebrated Christmas last week, New Year's this week. In between that, people have celebrated Kwanzaa, those who celebrate that, Habari Ghani, and I believe today's day is Faith, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this is the last day of Kwanzaa. And so you had those things, and then you have the New Year. And the thing about the New Year that people never think about is that really it's only the New Year, and depending on where you live, and depending on who you're dominated by. And it's so interesting because we don't think about it. The Chinese, they have their New Year. If you're Muslim, you know that they have their own calendar that's totally different from everybody else's calendar. The Hebrew calendar and the Muslim calendar, I believe, are similar in that I know the Islamic calendar is a lunar calendar. That much I know, which makes it shorter, and it moves around and things like that. So that's why if you're Muslim, Ramadan happens at different times of the year every year. That's why that occurs. But African people are the originators of the calendar concept, and indeed the oldest calendar. I believe it's the oldest calendar. Now the Chinese calendar is very old. So between the Kemetic calendar and the Chinese calendar, and I'm not sure how old the Chinese calendar is, and I believe the age of the Kemetic calendar is actually underestimated. So I would just say that black people, African people, have the oldest calendar. I can state that pretty definitively. The Kemetic calendar is over 6,200 years old. And the thing that's interesting about it, I remember reading about this years ago, is that there was a concept in ancient Kemet of a approximately 25,000 year cycle. And this is something that they observed celestially in the heavens with the movement of the stars and things like that, and the rising of certain stars in certain places in the sky. And what's interesting that nobody ever talks about when you talk about African history and things like that, and this shows us how much history we've lost. What's interesting about this concept is that in order for you to observe, or in order for you to recognize that something that happens every 25,000 years, that means that some type of way you have to notice it the first time and document it. You have to pass that information on for 25,000 years for someone to see it the second time and document it, right? And then for a third time, you have to document it to verify the second time in order to say this is an event that occurs in this span of time, which means that somewhere along the line, we have 75,000 years of observation of celestial bodies within African history that nobody talks about. Just take your time to process the information that I just gave you. And here's what's deep. Europeans know it, because the first time I really saw it put out in print and the person actually went through it, I got it from, it was a European's book that I read it in. Now, Baba Crazy had talked about it, but he hadn't, either he hadn't written about it or I hadn't seen his writings about it. But when I saw it written and put like that, it made me realize how much actual documented African history has been lost. Because that means that black people have been observing and documenting the movement of stars, right? Which we call astronomy today, for between 50,000 and 75,000 or more years. And yet we're here talking about it's 2021 and the Kemetic calendar only started at 6,200 years, well, 6,200 years approximately. It's a little bit more, right? So when we talk about a new year, and the Kemetic calendar starts in the summertime, I believe in July, with the inundation of the Nile, when the Nile overfloods its banks and enriches the soil in the Nile Valley and things like that, down in the Delta region of what is now Egypt. That's where they mark their time, and it happens around the same time every year. When we talk about a new year, we're not even realizing that we're limiting our own history by recognizing the whole BC AD concept, which they now changed to BCE, before Common Era. And I kind of use that term just for, because it's the quote unquote scientific term, if you will, and it's something that people can understand without getting all caught up in the religious doctrine of the BC and the AD, because that carries a religious connotation with it. But it just goes to show that even not just the language, but the calendar itself is used as a weapon of psychological warfare and educational warfare to limit our perspective on not only the world around us, but the universe itself, and limit our own perception of time, space, and the understanding of the greatness of our ancestors, who are indeed ourselves before, right? That's how deep this is. And this was something that I was just sitting around thinking about last night, because it's very weird that I was just in a place where there wasn't a lot of I didn't see a lot of excitement. I had to get away. If you live in certain places around black people, you get a lot of gunshots and things like that. It's just one of those times I didn't feel like hearing that and going through that. So I got away from that and took some time to think about this concept of the new year and time and things like that. And so I think part of us reconnecting with ourselves will be when we get to the point where we can at least start with that Kemetic calendar, and then we have to do further research in that area of the world, that Nile Valley, going deeper up into the areas of Uganda at the mouth of the source of the Nile, the mountains of the moon, and do some research there, because I believe there's some history there that has been lost. There's also some history that has been lost underneath the desert, because people don't understand. And I didn't even mean to get deep into this, but I'm traveling down this road, so we might as well go here. That the Sahara Desert was not always a desert, and it is possible that this cycle that we talk about, this 25-year cycle, that area transforms over time from desert to a lush, fertile area, and then back to desert. There is some evidence of that. There is a massive water source underneath the Sahara Desert that Libya was tapping into for a few years, of course, before the overthrow of Libya and Colonel Gaddafi by President Obama and Hillary Clinton. And so, just this idea of time, and that the idea of time we've been given constrains us, if you will, and kind of limits our vision and how we see things. And part of becoming sovereign, and part of becoming psychologically and mentally free, is changing our perception of time. And so that was kind of the foundation of the title of New White Year, because it's not the new year according to African people, and same black problems. And of course, we talk about the problems The problems that we have are endless. I could be here for 25,000 years talking about the problems, but to me, the biggest problem that we have, that's why I'm gonna keep talking about this over and over, and we see it in this YouTube space. But I believe that I believe that there are sincere attempts to deal with this problem. I believe that all of those attempts suffer from a lack of African perspective, and that's the problem of the black family, the breakdown of the black family structure, the conflict between black men and black women, and of course, for me personally, if we can't solve that problem, solve the problems of the gender divide, if you will, then any other problem that we think we can solve cannot be solved by us as a people. It's really kind of that simple. Here's the reality situation. It takes a black man and a black woman to produce black people, right? For the most part, it takes a black man and a black woman staying together for at least 20 years to produce psychologically healthy black people. To produce psychologically healthy African people, it takes two African-centered black people 20 years to raise an African child in his right mind in an environment that is anti-African. Now, if we look around us, how much of that do we see in person, in effect, right now? I'll let you all take your time and think about it. And so, because this is just something that's not happening right now, this is the number one issue on the board. Now, what are some of the things that are stopping this from happening? Number one, manipulation of the economy to limit black men's effectiveness and earning power, right? It's one of the things that's happening. That's one of the things that's actually been happening for probably 40 years. You know, that's one of the outgrowths of globalization, and it wasn't an accident, right? That causes strife in the home. It is what it is. Feminism, the rise of feminism. We underestimate how much damage feminism has done to the black community, and no one wants to talk about it, but I will. That's something I will talk about in March, for Dr. Francis Chris Welsing Day, right? Hip hop, we've talked about, or the hat. I think at one time either Genie or PKB called it hat hop. You know, not the real hip hop, but hat hop, and its effect on the minds of our men and our women. First it was our men, then it was our women. That causes just disruption, and we've talked about that in previous shows, and I think we've actually talked about all of these topics in previous shows. You know, the whole drug use, war on drugs, all of that thing. Greetings to Lord Bell. And I'm just trying to think of the various. How can I forget this? Pedophilia. I mean, we greatly underestimate the effect of sexual abuse in the black community and its effect on our women, and now its effect on our men. There's a lot of dysfunction in the black community related to this, and the thing about it is, when I hear or see people who are trying to through their means to bring about some type of reconciliation between black men and black women, to have some type of dialogue between black men and black women, I almost never see this topic come up. And there's no way that a person can survive that type of trauma that type of psychosexual trauma and be functional in relationships, really of any kind, but definitely any relationships involving intimacy, without that making them dysfunctional. Sister Poetry says, so many titles, so much destruction and dysfunction, indeed. And so, and of course, lastly, because I almost forgot, but we can't forget this. And really this falls into two things. What I would call disgendering of black people, right? Making women masculine, making men feminine, right? That's something. And then the whole homophile assault of homosexuality and the pedophilia. We put those together because they belong together. And if you're not familiar with that, then you have to go to Genie's work, and he deals with feminization of the black male, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Feminization Reloaded. You can get those things at warnerhorizon.com, and that will get you up to speed on that. I don't have time to get into all of that today. And so these attacks, and I forgot one, and I didn't write these out. I'm just thinking about them as we go along. But the miscegenation is so deep. Let me get into the miscegenation real quick, because this is how I see how it happened from my perspective of being the age I am, right? And someone older will probably have a different perspective. Someone younger will have a different perspective. But the miscegenation is deep because for my generation, the miscegenation was presented not as an open invitation for black men to be with white women. Like now, it's an open invitation. It wasn't like that when I was growing up. And I'm gonna take the time from when I was a teenager in high school, because I went to high school with Europeans, right? So it was not I'm trying to think that, I don't think there was anybody there was any couples, as far as like, there was definitely no black women with any European boys, unless they were doing it under the table and nobody knew. I can't think of any. And I can't really think of any brothers that was any European females. And you understand this, we went to school together, like interacted and were in classrooms and things like that. So it was a different environment, a different time. But I believe that was the beginning. But I believe the miscegenation, how it was presented to us, and this is so deep because it's not something you can see, but the glorification of, and this was the beginning of it, and to me, the glorification of mixed women opened the door to the concept of miscegenation for my generation, especially to the men, right? They didn't come after the women immediately. That came later on. What they did with the women is they had to denigrate the black men in the eyes of the black women in order to get them to the point of wanting to be with European males. And that's things like the color of purple and things like that. That's what that was for, right? But for the men, right, if you were young, if you were a teenager or even younger when Halle Berry became a thing, and the first time I remember seeing Halle Berry and thinking that she was appealing was when it was a movie, something about business. Our wonderful producer has decided to join us. I did tag her, but I didn't think she would come through. Strictly Business. Yeah, Strictly Business. That was the name of the movie. And Halle Berry was in Strictly Business. And I don't think at the time I knew that her mother was white, right? Because I can't remember. I'm not even sure how old I was when that movie came out. I'm pretty sure I was a teenager, but I'm not sure when that came out. I can look at the stuff in the time frame. It looks like late 80s, early 90s. A lot of New Jack Swing music in that and everything, that and the way people dance and the outfits and everything says New Jack Swing. So, I'll say early 90s. So, but she was presented to us as a black woman, and Sister Farnell said Alicia Keys. Yeah, I'll get to her because she's a little bit later. So there was Halle Berry. She was the first one, and she was presented to us as a black woman that happened to have a white mother. And she was put up as the most beautiful. She really was put up at that time in the media as the most beautiful black woman. So you had her, even though I don't think she's mixed, but you had, what's her name? The one that won the Miss America and got thrown out with the green eyes. Y'all help me out. What was her name? I can't think of her name, but she became an actress. It was a sister. She had green eyes. She may be mixed. I actually don't know, to be honest. But she had green eyes or hazel eyes or something like that, like some funny color. Vanessa Williams. Thank you. I was struggling. I knew it was Vanessa something, but I couldn't think of her last name at all. There was Vanessa Williams, who fit the image, even because she may not be. I actually have no idea what Vanessa Williams is, and she's been famous my whole life. That's weird. But anyway, her, of course, Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey came out, and it's funny. The Mariah Carey thing's hilarious to me because she came out when I was in high school. When she came out, she had curly hair. So, yeah, I didn't think Vanessa was biracial. Thank you, Sister Vanessa. But she has that look, so that she looks more in a way to me, and maybe it's just the eye thing. She looks more biracial in a way than Halle Berry did. And I was going back from when they were all young. Halle Berry, now you look at her, like the Urugu jumps out at you, at least to me. But and it's so funny to me. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey looked blacker when she was younger and whiter when she started hanging out with black people, if that makes any sense. And if you go back and look at the old videos when she was very young, when she first came out, and then later on, and it's so funny that by the time she became the Mariah Carey that was doing stuff with all these hip hop artists, I did not find her appealing at all. I didn't think she was physically attractive in any way, shape, or form, and still don't to this day. But it's just, my point is that this aesthetic of women was put above regular black women, right? Like of that era, there were younger women. I think like for example, somebody that actually was kind of attractive but had an off-putting personality was Robin Gibbons. Robin Gibbons was very physically attractive, I felt. Brown skinned sister. Now she had fake hair, which I didn't know at the time. I suspected, but I didn't understand how that worked. But I always thought she was very attractive and appeared very, she appeared somewhat what we called bougie back in the day, right? But it always seemed like she should have been bigger than she was, but she didn't kind of fit that agenda that was being put out. But anyway, my point being, as I've kind of meandered off the road here, is that look kind of became the look that was presented to my generation as boys, and where you started to see it eventually was in the music videos. So you had those artists and singers and so forth, so on, and then like the sister said, eventually Alicia Keys. About when did Alicia Keys come out? Like early 2000s or something like that. So maybe 10 years later. With the braids in her hair and everything like that. So you don't really see how European she actually looks. And but that look and that concept was put in our mind way before. Yeah, that's what I said, sister. The light skinned video vixens, way before the actual idea, or way before at least I felt like the signal was given that it was okay for black men to go after European females, right? So it was a transition. It just wasn't an opening of the door. Oh yes, sis, I forgot. Right, I forgot that. Lisa Bonet, I forgot that because because I'm younger than her. If you were a boy then, Lisa Bonet was like the older girl you had a crush on. So I forgot about that. And yeah, was she before all of them? Yeah, she was before all of them. So yeah, so that was, to me, that was like the introduction, right? And of course, what we don't think about is, because when we look at things as black people, we generally look at them as black and white, right? And the idea is, why would why would white men want black men to go after their women? Well, in general, they don't. And this is where the Zionists fall in. This whole idea of what I'm been talking about here, with the first, basically, like putting in the mind of our generation that the lighter women are better, right? Which led to the open miscegenation that we see today. Is still a small hat concept of a way that they break down people's culture, because once you start mixing, right, then people start you producing people who have a trouble with their identity. This doesn't mean that the person is a bad person, or all it means is that everyone, when things get volatile, everyone looks at that person or those group of people as we can't trust them. And then it becomes a problem for them because they're not trusted on either side of the fence. You see what I'm saying? And then this causes all types of confusion and breakdown in the family and resentment amongst the women, right? Because I mean, let's be realistic. And I got plenty of sisters here. Y'all tell me if I'm just making this stuff up. But seeing those women constantly put up as the most beautiful women, even if you're like a light skinned sister, like a regular light skinned sister, you still know that there's some difference between you and Lisa Bonet, right? You and Alicia Keys, and it's a difference. If the men constantly refer to those women as the women who are the most beautiful, then it causes resentment. Now, it may not be open, but now we see the effects of it. What are the effects? We see sisters talking about colorism, right? We see the rise in feminism, and women always talking about what's the term they use? Misogynoir, that word. And all to me, all of this is a response to this idea, which was put in the heads of a generation of young black boys, to be realistic. And it was something that was already lingering in our community anyway, because what is her name? Like, my grandfather, I think he had a thing for like Lena Horne back in the day. And so I'm talking about something that was 60, 70 years ago, whatever. I'm not even sure how long ago that was that Lena Horne was, she was popping. But so that light-skinned supremacist idea is something that was lingering, but I don't believe it was as open. And I could be wrong, but I just believe that as media became play a bigger part of our lives, we're affected by things more. And so again, but that opened the door to something else. So that wasn't even the end game, right? The end game was for black men to end up with white women. Not any type of mixing. The end game was for us to completely chase after white women, and then the end game was for the reaction to be for black women to then abandon black men. So at the same time that we're looking at the Halle Berrys and all this and stuff, The Color Purple has already come out, right? The rise of feminism in the colleges has already begun. And so the assault on the psyches of black men and black women and is happening in two different ways. And it's happening in a way that neither side can see what the other side, how the other side is being attacked. That's what's so deep about it. If you're a man, you probably don't see The Color Purple and you don't see what it's doing. And then you're not thinking about the video vixens all looking the same. If you're not consciously aware, right? So all of this is taking place. And I've always said that one of the things that happens is that black people in America especially get attacked. The men and the women get attacked, right? But the men and the women get attacked differently, and thus the men and the women don't see the danger of the attack that happens on each other, right? And so then each one airs their grievance, and the other one can't relate because they're under attack. And they're like, well, I'm under attack. How come you're not talking about how I'm under attack? And the other one's like, but I'm under attack, and you're not doing anything to protect me from the attack. And it's because they're both under attack, and they can't even see the attack on the other one. And this causes discord in our community between black men and black women, because why? We can't see what? The hidden enemies. So when you ask me, well, DC, why would you make a lecture and call it the hidden enemies? Because I have to talk about the enemies that we can't see, right? And I have to expose them so that we can see them. Then once we see them and we can study how they do things, because they have a system, because Europeans are systematic. The difference, the reason that African people can win is because Europeans are systematic. And once you study the system and you see how it works, then you can defeat it. But first you have to see it. So when Neely Fuller started talking about the system of racism and white supremacy, right, that made us see things. That he talked about the 9 areas of people activity. And that decoded some things for us. But something that he left out, that a brother named Chris the Black Unifier, who's from here in DC, said, he added in. So Neely Fuller basically said, if you don't understand racism and white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything you do understand will fool you, right? That's what he said. And that's profound, right? And that's true. And then Kush said, well, hold up. Let me add something to this. And he said, if you don't understand the small hats, who they are and how they work, everything you thought you understood about white supremacy will continue to fool you, right? And I'm paraphrasing. And so that's a key component of understanding what's going on in the world today. When I talked about earlier the rift between the small hats and the white nationalists, from the outside looking in, you just see a bunch of white people. You don't know who's who, you don't know why they're fighting, you're not sure what's going on. When you understand that one group of people sees themselves differently and above the other group of people, things become suddenly clearer. And in fact, to that point, because I literally just saw this before I came. Actually, I think I was already on when I saw this. Oh, maybe it was right before I came on. Brother Irritated Genie will be on tonight on Brother T West Afro Synergy News on YouTube. He'll be on at 7 o'clock and he'll be dealing with going further in depth with some of this information. Greetings, brother. BB482, you got ripped off. I ain't see you come in the building. I'm not sure if I greeted Sister Nina Has anybody else snuck in here while I was rambling on and on? So, but he will get further into that in the current context of what's going on, right? And then when I do the lecture, we're really going to get deep into the history and some things that we need to know. Hopefully, because sometimes me and Jeannie, it's real weird. Sometimes we won't even talk to each other, and we'll do stuff like maybe we'll do presentations the same week, or he'll be on the show and I'll do a presentation, or something like that, or I do a show and he'll do a presentation, and we'll literally be talking about the same thing without talking to each other. So, I have to watch and see what he does, make sure not repeating. But that when you get to the point where you're around each other and you kind of study the same things and things like that, you just get on that weird wavelength sometimes. But yeah, be sure to check the brother out, because currently on social media, that's pretty much the only way you can see him, as if he's invited to someone else's radio station or their YouTube channel or podcast or things like that. And speaking of that, I will have, because somebody asked me, but I don't know who it was. Somebody asked me, I will have an interview with Jeannie either this month, because now it's January, or early next month. And Sister Farnessa says that's when the ancestors are working through both of you. Oh, thank you, sister. Yeah, I will. I just answered that question. What I'm thinking about doing, and y'all tell me if this is something y'all interested in. What we normally do, what Straight Black Pride normally does, is every February we will have 4 guest lecturers come to DC. That's not going to happen this year unless something changes drastically. So what I'm thinking about doing is having 4 different guests in February on the show. Y'all let me know in the chat if that's something y'all would be interested in. And Jeannie would be one of them. And probably Baba Baruti, if I can get him, would be one as well. And so that's something I want to do. I actually want to find one sister too. I don't want it to be 4 brothers. I would like one sister. There's not a lot of sisters I know who are doing Straight Black Pride type content. Just because I don't know them don't mean they don't exist. So if you have somebody that you know of and have contact information for, DM me on Instagram and just let me know. And our wonderful producer, hold up, she just put up something. Our wonderful producer says we got our own now, OTWTube.com. That's On the Wake Up Radio Tube.com. Okay, all right, looks like we live and functional with that. And I guess I had to have our wonderful producer on to talk about that. She's been making some moves behind the scenes. Sister Farnessa says, what about the sister that's a former Black Panther that was at the convention? Oh, Dr. Jennings? Yeah, I will. I have to see if she's available and amenable to that. Yeah, that's a thought. I was thinking about a younger sister, but it's like, we're running out of elders so quickly, and that's another thing I want to talk about real quick. Brother, you got ripped off. Said there's a sister in the UK named Sasha Jones. Okay, I'm not familiar with her at all. Okay, yeah, I don't know who that is, brother. Send me some links on Instagram. I'm not familiar with her at all. But yeah, that's an idea. Depending on, because all these people are, people are busy. They're doing what they're doing, and it's such a weird year. Like, even though we just kind of think that people should just be available, and you should just be able to send them a link and they click on and start chopping it up. That's not always the case, you know. Sister Shahrazad Ali, I had thought about it. I have, you know, I like a lot of what the sister has to say, but there are some things that, you know, there's some things we have some things we disagree about. I've heard her say some statements, a couple of statements. I will, you know, kind of turn my head, looked around like, wait a minute, what? You know, run that back. So that's a thought. And again, just leave your thoughts in the chat, and it depends on, because I mostly be trying to have people that I have some type of familiarity with. I know who they are. I know what they do. They know who I am. They know what I do to a degree. Because to be honest, a lot of the elders, they don't pay attention to what I do. You know what I'm saying? They see me at the events. They know who I am. They see, you know, they know Jeannie. They interact with Jeannie. They talk to me a little bit. And then it's like, all right, moving on. You know, and that's fine. I'm not, you know. Let's see. Sister Nina says that would be powerful with Baba Rudy. Okay, yeah, Baba Rudy, and maybe maybe I try to get them on as a couple. That's a thought too. I hadn't thought about that until just now. And Sister Vanessa says she does say some controversial things, but she has more meat than she has bones. Yeah, I agree with that. And you know, the thing about Sister Shahrazad Ali is she's been fighting against black feminism since I won't say as long as I've been alive, although that's possible. I really don't know when she started talking about it, because when I first heard of her, I'm trying to think, was I still in high school when I first heard of her? I think somebody showed me a clip of her in high school. So, you know, and I'm sure that wasn't her first lecture. So she's been doing this at least since, probably, I guess you could say, since I was a child. You know, so, you know, you have to give credit where it's due with that. But yeah, so that was one of the things. And you know, I haven't really talked about it a lot, but lately, because I'm gonna be honest, man, I used to get tired of talking about. It's two things I kind of got tired of talking about, and one, for two different reasons. One was the pedophilia, because nobody wanted to talk about it. And I do shows about it. We had events about it. Like, we never get support. Nobody wants to talk about it. And what I realized is that a lot of people are on both ends of that thing and fall in a lot of gray areas with that. And that's why we don't want to talk about it as a community, right? You know, getting men to talk about being a survivor. Yeah, I've seen people lately do that, and you know, that's good. You know, other people have made progress with that, so you know, that's good. But you know, that's just one of those things. So you're not gonna get a whole lot of support with that. And so I kind of got tired of talking about it. And then when like I said, when I saw people pick up the mantle, I was like, okay, other people are doing it. All right, cool. And I'm not gonna lie, like the homosexual thing, I got kind of tired of talking about it. And again, this was a thing where I saw people picking up the mantle and trying to say, hey, we got to resist this thing and so forth, so on. So I was like, it was kind of almost take a deep breath, like, whew, cool. Other people have finally recognized this is a problem. I don't, you know, straight black pride doesn't have to be the lone voice crying in the wilderness, the lone group going out and you know, telling people about it and warning people and going to events and stopping people from trying to push it on our children and things like that, you know. So I got tired of it. But here's the reality. These things are still a threat to black people and our survival. Because why? Because they destroy the black family. It's really that simple. And the thing is that amongst our young people, it's really become very I'm not even sure the word. It's become pervasive in youth culture, where, and I just found this out, because I don't, you know, I pay attention to the rappers, but I don't. because it gets annoying to try to pay attention to them. But I at least try to have some idea what's going on to be able to connect with our young people to some degree. And then somebody sent a. I saw somebody post something, and this just goes to show how this celebrity thing kind of encompasses where we are as black people in a way, right? So apparently there's some dude named Playboy Cardi who looks extremely effeminate, and apparently it's some rapper. It's amazing how I never hearing these rappers rapping, but whatever. Maybe I hear them and I don't know what they are because they all sound the same to me. That's how you know you're getting old. When all the music sounds the same, you just getting old. Again, not the target audience. And so we have a effeminate male rapper who has a child with a European female. Well, I just drew a name. I can picture her in my head. This real pale looking. She used to deal with a basketball player that played for the Wizards and the Lakers, but I can't think of his name either. So eventually somebody will know who I'm talking about. But anyway, oh yeah, Iggy Azalea. That's her name. I think that's her name. So this guy, Playboy Cardi, and Iggy Azalea having some type of thing, and they had a baby, which I didn't know who he was. So apparently he's younger than her, and apparently there's some issue where he's not taking care of his child and things like that. Whatever. Okay. The only reason I bring this up is because it kind of encapsulates everything I'm talking about with the destruction of the black family, right? We have miscegenation, right? Black male, white female. I think she's from Australia or something. We have black male feminization, because if you ever seen a picture of this guy, like why a woman would want to be with him is beyond me, but hey, it is what it is. I'm not a woman. We have out of wedlock birth, right? We have probably gonna have child support, and then we're gonna have that thing that we don't talk about, where you have someone who's gonna be related to, like, they're gonna have like 4 or 5 different branches of their people, and when someone dies, someone's gonna show up and claim that they're so and so's son or daughter and things like that. All that crazy stuff. And if you ever been to a funeral, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, we've all experienced that at a black funeral where someone shows up that you've never seen before, and they say that they are Uncle so and so's son or daughter, or Grandpa so and so granddaughter or great granddaughter, things like that. And everybody looks around like, who is this person? And then all the stuff falls out the closet. You know what I'm saying? Hey, all the dirt gets revealed at the funeral, right? So that situation with Iggy Azalea and Playboy Cardi, all these names, is like an encapsulation of black dysfunction, even though it's an interracial relationship. That's what's so crazy about it, right? Sister Vanessa says, I never experienced that one. You never. Oh, what, the funeral? You never been to the funeral? Oh, yeah. Nah, that's a couple of those in my family, but maybe it's only my family that happens that then. Okay, I won't put that on everybody. But yeah, funerals, and unfortunately, I've been to a few funerals this year. Yeah, there's always something you see that you question, and I'm not young, so the fact that I don't know what's going on sometimes it's kind of like, okay, but you're closer to some people than others. And to be completely honest, I've been to a funeral where people weren't sure who I am, and of course you had the funeral with a mask and everything on, so people who haven't seen you in 20 years don't know who you are. Of course, you pull your mask down and people see you and they know exactly who you are because you look exactly like certain people. So, but I've digressed. But yeah, that whole celebrity situation, man, just encapsulates where we are with just all of this family dysfunction. And this family dysfunction is still the biggest thing on the table. We have to find some way as black people to make healthy families the number one priority. And it can only, I'm not gonna say only, that's it's false. It can be done primarily by two black people choosing to say, this is what we're going to do, and this is our life's mission: to produce African black children of sound mind, right? Who understand that we are being warred against, right? Why did I not say that we are at war? We're not at war, because we're no more at war than a person is in a boxing match that happens to just get punched in the face by someone that walks down the street. Now, if that person swings back, they're in a fight, but they're not in a boxing match. If they don't respond quick enough and they keep getting punched in the face and they fall down, they're still not in a boxing match. They're getting served a can, as they used to say back in the day. And you can fill in the blanks on what's in that can. But you're not in a boxing match. In much that same way that person is getting punched in the face and has fallen on the ground and still getting punched in the face, that's the condition that black people are in regards to racism, white supremacy, and global European domination. And we're getting kicked while we're down by other people like the Chinese, the Arabs, and so forth and so on. And if you saw my lecture, you understand what I'm saying. And so that's why I say we're being warred against. But the beginning of the solution of all of that is the repairing of the black family unit. Because the difference between a black family unit, and a European family unit, and I don't know why I'm having trouble saying a 4-letter word, unit, it's not that complex, is that a European family unit is mother, father, children. An African family unit is mother, father, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, children, sometimes children of neighbors, and you get the picture. That's an African family. The core of it, of course, is the couple, right? But the family itself is everything that I've set out, is the village. We have to fix the core, which is the couple. But we have to build the ties that create the village. And that, it will be the foundation upon which we can build what we need to alter our destiny as a people. But here's the thing. I don't care if it's the 25,000 year cycle of Zep-Tepi or any other celestial manifestation in the heavens. None of that's going to take place without hard work by black African people here on planet Earth, regardless of where you happen to be on the planet, whether you're on the continent in the West, in Australia, Asia, Saudi Arabia, wherever you may be. But as I said previously, this is the key. And I believe one of the things that can kind of help solve this problem, could be wrong, but because one thing we kind of have, and it's two things. one of the things I'm gonna talk about in the future. But one of the things is I believe that we can't be afraid to go outside of our, for in essence, our ethnic group, because black people in America are kind of like an ethnic group, if you will. We can't be afraid to go outside our ethnic group for mate selection, because here's the thing: some of the same people that'll tell you about how bad other ethnic groups of black people are, people from the continent, Nigerian, blah 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 blah, Caribbean, all this, say all this negative stuff about them, are the same people who are willing to step outside the race if nobody would say anything, right? Let's just be honest. Some of these people, some of these ADOS people, and some of these what are the FBA people? Oh, some of them dudes definitely they already stepped outside the race. I'm not talking about with no half nothing. I'm talking about they with a whole Urugu. I've seen them online, right? So those Negroes are willing to do that. We have to be willing, if necessary, to step to another ethnic group and build those bonds of family that way. That's one thing that can help balance us out, I believe, right? Because we do have we have such a weird imbalance in the black community, and the more I study, the more I see all the destruction that was wrought beginning in the 60s with the drugs, well, the early 70s really, with the heroin and all that, has caused weird imbalances in our numbers as far as our gender, where you have a generation where there's more women than men. But then at the same time, you also have this thing where you have a large percentage of women who already have children and a large percentage of men who are childless. And so now you have that imbalance. Because I believe this is the only Christian concept I believe in. And I don't know if I said this before. The unequally yoked concept. I do believe in that. Like, I believe you have to have certain things in common. Gives you a better opportunity to make a successful relationship. Let's see, brother, you got ripped off says not some all in my opinion. Not all. Oh, as far as willing to step outside the race, and said they still believing in the false one drop rule. Yeah, that's man, don't even get me started on those people. I just put it like this: once you identify as something other than African, and you identify as something that's European based, then you're willing to go all the way to being European. That's just a fact, right? That's a fact. So, it is what it is. But, and then so yeah, we have those imbalances, right? Where we have age imbalances, we have numerical imbalances, we have the women with children and the childless men imbalance, which is a weird one. I knew it existed. I didn't realize how extreme it is. It's like, I didn't realize there's as many brothers that are single without children running around in the community as there are, or at least who don't know they have children, put it that way, right? Because there's always a chance you have one that you don't know about, because those things happen. If you ever watch, my goodness, if you ever watch Paternity Court, if there's any truth in Paternity Court, then this thing is crazy. And when I started researching, and I said I was going to do a video on paternity fraud, the reason I haven't done a video on it, God on truth, because it makes my head hurt, and it angers me so much, because this is such a It's such a vile, wicked thing to me to have a man raise another man's child, or take, or sometimes you're doing both at the same time. You have one man raising a child that's not his, and then you've taken the opportunity of another man to raise his own child, and to know he has a lineage. Man, this should be prosecuted as a crime. Um, it's something we don't never want to talk about, but I remember I was watching Paternity Court one time, and it was a older sister on it, so this is not something new. And she was I think the daughter was trying to figure out who her father was, and it was older sister on there, and it was a musical group, and she had been with two brothers that were in the group, so nobody didn't have any idea who the girls, it's one of the girls, she's a grown woman, but who the woman's father was. And they didn't have any idea because her mother was, out there, for lack of a better word. Greetings to Rio Ross Soldier. Never heard of this channel, but respect, brother. Cincinnati on the battlefield. Okay, greetings to you, family. I'm not even sure how you came through, but I'm glad you came through. But yeah, that Sister Farnessa says women that lie to these men about being the father of a child should be sued and jailed or made to pay back all the child support that they stole. Indeed. And what's so deep about it is, if you don't research this, you don't know, or you know somebody to go through it, is that the system is set up in a way that as long as someone is paying and taking care of the child, they don't actually care about the actual truth of the paternity of the child. That's what I found out. And so, but this causes all types of things, because you can have certain things that run in your family and the child doesn't know. I mean, and then it just, the identity crisis, the psychological problems. It's another hidden thing that really breaks down our families. And no one wants to talk about it, because there's no way you can make this look good. Like the person who does this, which is the woman in this case, because as they say, mama's baby, papa's maybe, she knows. There's no way for her to look good in the situation. And I saw a stat that said that it's possible, it's estimated in America that it's paternity fraud is like between 25 and 33%. So we're talking about 1 out of 4 to possibly 1 out of 3 people not knowing who their father is, or believing that somebody's their father that's not their father. And this is, like I said, this is not new, because the people that were on paternity court, these people, they were at least 60 years old if they were a day. So this is something that's going way back, Sister Farnessa said these trifling females be knowing that man isn't the child's father. That doesn't just hurt the man, hurts the child as well. Indeed. But this is something that we don't want to talk about. But going back to possible solutions, they're talking about us as, basically black people just getting back to dating and marrying and having marriages with black people regardless of where we are on the planet, right? There's another thing that I'm going to have to look at, and I'm going to really have to talk to Bob Baruti about, as far as this polygamy thing. And the thing about it is that, and I don't think I've ever really talked about it, and I may do a show, I'll eventually do a show about it, but the thing I've always had about it is that, let's see, oh brother, you got ripped off, hold on. Said this is a touchy subject because there's some black women that would rather tell a child a white man is their father instead of the black man who actually is. Now that is a situation that's a situation I'm not familiar with. Yeah, that would be a new one for me. Because in the era I grew up in, no sister in this area, in my era, nor this area would say nothing like that. Would Nah, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. Yeah, that now I'm not saying that doesn't happen because now lots of different stuff is happening, and it's possible it happened in the past too. I can see it, but yeah, in my era, in my area, no sister would claim that, right? Like if the baby come out too late and people start questioning, they'd be, they're lying opposite direction. Brother says my ex was told her father was white because her mother felt that was better than saying her real father's a pedophile. Oh my goodness! See, that's a whole. Nah, that's a whole different. Again, we're back to the pedophilia, but that's a whole different. Um, that's a bombshell right there. Goodness, yeah, that's a whole different show. And then he says, in turn, she's done that to you. Wow. Yeah, that's man, that's a whole different can of worms you open there, brother. That's yeah. I gotta take a minute to digest that. That's crazy. And one thing we have to do, we have to set some type of standard of what is and is not acceptable from an age, as far as ages, as far as relationships. We got to set some type of standard. We right now everything is kind of willy nilly. For years we've had young sisters lying about their age to get with older brothers, and in addition to the just open, rampant, just sexual abuse of women and now men, and just this whole, it's just chaos and disorder, and we have to set some standards. So once we set the standards, then we can have some enforcement. Right now, because we have no standards, we can't have any enforcement. Like the R. Kelly thing's a perfect example. We know he's a pedophile. He married Aaliyah when she was 15, but then some of this other stuff where it looks like parents may have condoned their women being with him or something, whatever. That thing is crazy, right? So we have to knock his head off, but then we got to look at the parents and see what were they doing, And Sister Vanessa says, folks questioned if my father, excuse me. All right, I'm back. Excuse me for a moment. Says, folks question my father is actually my dad. I don't look like my dad. I look like my mother. Oh, okay. I don't have that problem. Look just like my father, even though he's not here. If you ever seen him or you ever seen me, there's no question whatsoever. But yeah, well, you got ripped off. Literally got me choked up when he said that. But yes, Sister Finance, I did mute myself for a moment. Hopefully y'all can hear me now, right? Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me now, so I can continue and not talk to myself. But what the next thing I wanted to talk about, in addition to, and the sexual abuse just got me for a minute. And that whole thing what you got ripped off said got me for a minute. Thank you, Sister Poetry. This polygamy thing is very interesting, and I've been looking at this thing and studying and trying to figure this thing out. And what I realize is this, and I'm gonna do a show on it eventually, like I said. But we don't have the organization, discipline, enforcement, um, character development, um, sexual discipline, morals. We don't have any of those things. Responsibility. We don't have any of those things necessary to make any type of polygamy work that would benefit men, women, and children. And it's deep because I see people pushing this polygamy thing, and then this whole poly lifestyle. I forgot what they call it when it's multiple men and one woman. Y'all help me out with whatever that's actually called. But I see people pushing this, and in fact, I was on Instagram, and this page came up, and I'm not even sure how I stumbled upon it, but it came up, and so I went and looked at it. Right, I looked at the page. I was like, well, let me see what they're talking about here. And so I go through the page, and of course, what do I see? Yeah, because it wasn't it was a poly, whatever they call it. It was a poly page. I just call it a poly page. I forgot what the actual word is. But when I go through it, okay, I see a man, I see two women, and I see a couple, and they're talking about adding a third and stuff like that, right? So I see all this stuff, and then what's the next thing I see? The next thing I see let's see, you got SK says Hotep African Americans are war captives and cannot gain clan membership. Cannot gain clan membership. Clan membership is only determined by birth. SBP Kenya. Okay, brother or sister, because I'm not sure who that is. If you are in Kenya at this time, man, you are really dedicated because it's late. Polyandry. Thank you, brother. But yeah, so I'm looking at this polyandry page, and what do I see? Of course, eventually, after going through the page and looking at a few pictures just to see what it's about, what do I get to? You get to the homosexuality. The two, in this case, the picture of, I think it was a illustration of two women and one man, and the two women were with each other while the man was with them. And y'all get the picture. Trying to say these things without getting vulgar. Like some things you just can't talk about without getting vulgar. That's what I realized. That's why some things I don't talk about. But so I was like, okay, well, see, here we are. So what I realized is I'm looking at this and looking at some other things. We're not, as a people, in any way, shape, or form, psychologically well enough to deal with that in a manner. And this is my opinion. That in a manner in which it can be beneficial for the community. Because in the grand scheme of things, from how I look at it, the benefit of it would be that, one, it would be able to increase our population because we've been kind of at a stagnant percentage through social engineering. Two, it would get an opportunity for children who are growing up fatherless to have a father, right? Not just a father figure or piecemealing fathers like we're trying to do now in this type of thing, right? Those would be the benefits. The problem is that the men that women, because a lot of women are in some type of dysfunctional, broken, polygamous, a pseudo polygamous thing that they're in now, that a brother that wrote back in the 80s called The Ball Game. Like, the ball game is still the game is still going on, even though it's kind of, the clock has run out on it. So we have some type of weird pseudo polygamous thing happen now with side chicks and all this stuff. I mean, we're in so many situationships. I don't even actually have names for these things, And so that's what made me look at it and think, is there some way that we can salvage that and make it of use for our people? And at the moment, and just being completely honest, at the moment, I don't see it. We're just not psychologically healthy enough to do those things where it just doesn't devolve into degeneracy. Sister Vanessa said all these diseases and bad energy going on with people, and all some of these clowns can think about is having 1,001 partners. Gonorrhea has a super strain that's on the rise. I did not know about gonorrhea super strain, but yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, when you think about, if you can't maintain a relationship with one other person, there is no way in the world, in my opinion, and I believe my opinion is based in sound logic and fact. There's no way in the world that you can maintain a relationship with more than one person if you can't maintain a relationship with one person. And the fact of the matter is that most men and most women, to be honest, have not been in a position to observe functional relationships. Period. Right? And the best time for you to observe them is when you're a child and you're growing up, and hopefully you see them in your house or somewhere nearby. And most people have been robbed of that experience, and thus many people, and I've seen this with the singles mixes. First of all, many young brothers just don't. I don't know what it is. They just don't know how to interact with women, just on a very base level. Not even with and this is what's deep too. And then even those that don't know how to interact with women in a non-sexual level, right? So if the end game is not sex, they really don't know how to interact with women. It's a very weird thing, but it's a real phenomenon that I've really seen, because as I'm an observer of human behavior, and when we've had our singles mixes, there's certain things that I have observed, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. This is almost like high school. Well, no, not even high school. Before high school, you have the school dance in junior high, middle school, whatever, elementary, whatever, and the boys are on one side, the girls on the other side. There's nobody dancing. We've had some events that was like that. It's like, what in the world is going on? These are grown people. Sister Nina said, I'm not for polygamy, but I do understand what it should be. If brothers aren't business minded or don't have polygamy money, what you just described is a degenerate sexual romper room. Yeah, no, that's what I see a lot of. It is a degenerate sexual romper room, and that's why I'm just like, we're not ready for this. Like, you just can't. We're just not ready for it. I have maybe there are some individuals that are making it work. I don't know them. I see women who are desirous of that type of relationship. I question their motivations. I question some of them. I question their sexuality. Some of them I don't have to question their sexuality because they put it out front. Some of them I know their motivations, and their motivations have as much to do with their children as they have to do with the man per se. Many men's motivations is simply sexual access to more women, even though they can get the same sexual access to more women without that. But some just want to put on a just don't want to look like a man whore. It's just a lot of things going on that, what could be an institution that could be beneficial, we just not prepared for them. Just be unregulated madness, being completely honest. And if someone disagrees, they can say what it is. But just looking at our condition as a people, that we got to start with the basics. We got to start with one man and one woman and try to keep them together for a minimum of 20 years. We got to start with that. And that, of course, that 20 years would assume that they start having children almost immediately. But we're having vast difficulty with that. And of course, that comes from the fact that a lot of people just, for the last 2-3 generations, a lot of people just being accidentally reproduced. We just have we have too many situationships and too much accidental reproduction. And y'all may disagree or whatever. I believe that accidental reproduction in and of itself makes people who will have more of a tendency to be unbalanced. Sister Nina says, when is the next singles mixer? We don't have one planned because of everything that's going on. Like, it's kind of no, it's not kind of. It's the idea of having a singles mixer while everyone's walking around with masks on. Yeah, I don't see that working. And then too, in this area, like every time that they loosen up the restraints. That's not the word I'm looking for, but really it is the restraints. We are being restrained from doing what we want to do. Every time they loosen them up, then they go back and change it. So one minute you can have a certain number of people in the venue, the next minute that's cut in half or cut out. And so until things achieve some level of normalcy, then having a singles mixer in person doesn't seem like something that we can do. Excuse me. Now, someone asked me about the possibility of facilitating a online singles mixer. I would need, for that to happen, I would need a minimum of 10 men and 10 women willing to pay for that event to facilitate that. So if I can't find 20 people, if I can't find at least 20 people that want to be part of that, because that's technology that I'll have to look into and invest in to make that happen. But the way things are going, maybe something that maybe a format we have to look into later this year. But right now, that's not something that's on the table. Because really being completely honest, the hardest part will be finding the brothers that would sign up for that. I know brothers who are looking for women. I know, to be honest, from ages about 28 to 45. About that. I know probably maybe 10 to 12 brothers who are single. The vast majority of them childless. Of course, most of them straight black pride minded. Who wouldn't mind being with wouldn't mind finding a compliment, but are very frustrated with the character of women that are available at this time. So, getting brothers like that to sign up, even though that is their desire, I'm gonna I would have to convince them. Like I would have to. It would take a certain caliber of woman to make them want to be part of that type of event. And I know because I've actually talked to some of them about something similar, so I know what I'm saying is a fact. But there's a general, and it's something I probably talk about on the it's something I'll talk about in the future. I'm not sure when, but there is a rising dissatisfaction amongst black men in general, but even, for lack of a better word, conscious black men, of the caliber of women that's available, and it's just something that most brothers who are race first won't talk about it, right? And outside of private circles. So I'll be their spokesman, right? I'll take the hit. Excuse me. I'll say the things that they won't say. Sister Nina says that I've seen her character for a short span of time. And Sister Najee says I'm for it because most will die. Why? She said most will die in the upcoming years from Yaru's plans. Those of us with like mind need to reproduce and run families as business nations prepare to take power. Indeed. Sister Najee, you're on a continent though. What if the brother is here in the West? You know, you gonna fly him out, or we gonna have to raise funds as a family to fly him out to the continent, which I'm sure brothers won't mind going, because I'm not gonna lie, if my economics was a little different, I'd probably be making my way. Sister Najee says we no longer have the luxury of love/romance / neutral one-child households. Indeed. Yeah. Those of us who are race first, unfortunately, we're being out reproduced by those who are by Negroes vastly. We're not only being outnumbered, but we're being out reproduced. And one of the things I'm starting to see happen is that I'm starting to see people come into this later, and it's interesting because it's a new thing to me. People coming into quote unquote consciousness at later stages than I'm used to seeing. Of course, I came into it at a very young age, and when I saw the generation that was coming up with the I'll call the Mike Brown, Hidden Colors, Trayvon Martin generation, I saw them start to wake up, and I thought there was a great possibility for a revolutionary generation, but that was derailed to a great degree with the help of Black Lives Matter, and which it was their goal to derail. And then we had the rise of various charlatans and capitalists who sought to make money off the situation and weren't sincere and things like that. So, that happened. And I believe we're heading into a down period of, as far as revolutionary consciousness, and a period where people become more docile. Now, that can always change, but I remember Bob Baruti saying it, and I agree with him. It's kind of a natural progression where you have an uprising of black people, a raising of consciousness, a peak of organizing and mobilizing, which is two different things. And then it reaches a crescendo. Usually Urugu responds. The energy is dispelled, and those people who can still organize through all of this and play the long game are usually successful, whereas other groups tend to dissipate. So we have to play the long game, even though we're in very dangerous times where a lot of people, like the sister said, can fall victim. But we have to play the long game and build through this period, regardless of what is in store, because we know Urugu has something more in store for us than what we've seen so far. You got ripped off. Said our people have been programmed to devalue our genetic makeup, while Urugu seeks our makeup for their survival. Indeed, indeed. That is yeah, that covers the whole thing right there. Excuse me for a second. Right, so oh man, apologize for that. But what the sister said, it's real deep. But yeah, we're beyond the point where we're beyond the point of where we can afford situationships. We're beyond the point of love, quote unquote, the European conception of love. We're beyond the point of I believe somebody, and I missed it, somebody said something about entanglements. Oh yeah, sister said accidental reproduction is called entanglements now. We're beyond the point where we can afford any of this stuff. Baba Cambone, he had a quote where he talking about black people are very serious about not being very serious. We have to get less serious about not being very serious and get more serious about being serious, if you understand what I'm saying. And then a large mass of people are not going to do that. That's all. I mean, that it is what it is. We have to accept that fact. Those who are like-minded have to come together and build and take it from there. And so that's kind of where we are in the new year of Urugu. And I really just wanted to come on because I haven't been on. See, seems like I haven't been on in weeks. I don't actually know how long it's been, but it seems like it's been forever. And I haven't really got a chance to speak to y'all. I did get a chance to do the lecture, but the lecture wasn't as interactive as this is. Speaking of lectures, in the upcoming lecture, and it's possible I'll definitely be on Sunday. It's possible I may come on tomorrow as well. Sister Najee said she has to fly him out. And Sister Nina says, what's the point? It sounds like we're doomed. No, we're not doomed. I'm not trying to give you all the doom and gloom. It's not that. It's just that you just have to take a realistic lay of the land and be real with what's going on. Because I believe one of the things that has happened, well, several things have happened. Black men and black women have been in fantasy land, in two different fantasy lands. Black men have been in hip hop basketball fantasy land, and black women have been in Disney fantasy land, and we've both been asleep in the dreams of our enemy. And so we just have to deal with the cold hard reality of our situation and take a stock of it, take accountability for mistakes that have been made by all involved, and then move forward from there. I'm just a big believer that if you take proper stock of where you are, it's easier to get to where you're going. But you have to start with where you are first. And a lot of times as black people, we don't like to hold up the mirror to where we are because we've become complicit in our own destruction since integration has started. Sister Montreal on a mission says, great chat. I need to leave. We'll watch the replay. Straight Black Pride. And straight Black Pride to you, sister. Glad you came through. I appreciate your support. And to be completely honest, you won't miss much because I will be on here for probably about 5 more minutes. My voice is starting to go, and when that happens, that's telling me it's time to put down the microphone. But I will be back on Sunday. I may be back on tomorrow. Like I said, the goal is to create content every day. So if you did not smash the like button when you came in, smash the like button before you leave. If you have not, brother, you got ripped off talking about old age. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you so much. Also, when you smash the like button, don't forget to hit the bell icon, because people have been telling me they're not getting notifications. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get the notifications. If you don't do both, YouTube will not give you the notifications because the page is still small. Shout out to those people who have pushed us up to, I believe we're up to about 84 or 5 subscribers, trying to get to 100. Look out for the footage from the Dr. Chancellor Williams Day gravesite ceremony. That'll be up by Monday. That'll be up. And also look out for some other short form videos that will come on that'll just be 10 to 20 minutes. That's the format I'm looking for. 10 to 20 minutes. Some news, some social commentary, things like that. So that's where the channel is going. And then, of course, we'll start working on the interviews. So, with that, brothers and sisters, I appreciate you all for your support. Again, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_one. Hit the Cash App if you can, $DC Radical1. Of course, this is the YouTube page, capital D, small c, Radical1. Also, don't forget to get your tickets for the live stream or the live event, January 9th, Dr. Khalid Muhammad Day celebration. Tickets are available via Eventbrite. The link will be in the description. And with that, I say, BB40 and straight black pride.